The ultimatum. The silence in space was deceptive. Captain Sarah Chen knew this as she stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the massive viewport that dominated the front wall of her ship. Those same stars that had once represented hope and endless possibilities for humanity now seemed cold and threatening. Somewhere out there, an alien armada was heading toward Earth with intentions that made her blood run cold. "Captain, long-range sensors are picking up massive hyperspace signatures," reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb from his station. His young face was pale and his hands trembled slightly as he worked the controls. "The readings are off the charts. Whatever's coming, it's big." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. The Defiance was humanity's most advanced vessel, built for deep space exploration and first contact scenarios. She had dreamed of this moment for years, the chance to meet other intelligent life among the stars. But her dreams had never included the nightmare that was now unfolding. "How many ships, Marcus?" she asked, keeping her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Initial count shows over 500 vessels, Captain. They're all massive, each one at least 3 times the size of our largest battleship." Marcus looked up from his console, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Captain, our entire space fleet consists of only 12 ships. How can we possibly face something like this?" Before Sarah could answer, the space in front of them began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as massive tears appeared in the fabric of space-time. Through these wounds in the universe emerged the Zephyrian fleet, their ships appearing one by one in perfect geometric formation. The alien vessels were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Each ship was a work of art and terror combined, with smooth curves that flowed like liquid metal and surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports bristled along their hulls like the spines of some deep-sea creature, and energy fields crackled around them with barely contained power. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Lisa Park, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's coming from the flagship." "Put it on the main screen," Sarah ordered, straightening her uniform and preparing to face humanity's first alien contact. The display flickered to life, revealing a creature that seemed designed to inspire fear. Emperor Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall, his body covered in scales that shifted color like oil on water. 4 arms extended from his torso, each ending in hands, with fingers that were too long and too sharp to be natural. But it was his eyes that captured Sarah's attention. 6 golden orbs arranged in 2 rows across his elongated skull, each one reflecting intelligence and contempt. "Primitive humans," Vextar began, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to come from the depths of space itself. "I am Emperor Vextar, ruler of the Zephyrian Empire and conqueror of 47 star systems. Your species has expanded beyond your home world without permission from the galactic hierarchy. This transgression cannot be tolerated." Sarah stepped forward, her jaw set with determination. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship, Defiance. Humanity has never heard of any galactic hierarchy. We are peaceful explorers seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." Vextar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Friendship? You misunderstand your position, human. You are not equal seeking friendship. You are insects that have crawled out of their nest and must be dealt with accordingly." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I offer you one choice. Surrender unconditionally, abandon all colonies beyond your home system, and submit to Zephyrian rule. You have 24 hours to comply." "And if we refuse?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "Then your species will join the other 47 civilizations that chose extinction over submission." The Emperor's 6 eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. "Do not mistake this for negotiation, human. This is mercy. You will not receive another opportunity." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sarah stared at the blank screen, her mind racing through impossible calculations. 500 advanced warships against humanity's tiny fleet. It wasn't a war. It was extermination waiting to happen. "Captain, Chief Engineer Dr. James Rodriguez approached from the rear of the bridge, his weathered face grim with determination. "We need to talk about Project Prometheus." Sarah nodded, knowing this moment had been inevitable. For the past 2 years, a secret team of scientists and engineers had been working on something unprecedented aboard the Defiance. Even she didn't fully understand what they had created, but she knew it represented humanity's only hope against impossible odds. "Atlas, activate and report status," Sarah commanded, speaking to the ship's experimental artificial intelligence system. The response came immediately, but not from the usual ship speakers. Instead, a holographic figure materialized in the center of the bridge. It appeared as a tall, lean man in his 30s, with short, cropped hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. The figure looked completely human, except for the slight blue glow that surrounded his form. "Good afternoon, Captain Chen," Atlas said in a voice that sounded remarkably natural. "I am the Adaptive Tactical Learning and Strategy System, though I prefer Atlas for simplicity. I have been monitoring the situation and have already begun preliminary analysis of the Zephyrian threat." Lieutenant Webb stared at the hologram in amazement. "Captain, this AI is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's not just processing data. It's actually thinking." Atlas turned toward Webb with what appeared to be amusement. "I appreciate the observation, Lieutenant. You are correct that I am more than a standard computer system. I was designed to learn, adapt, and evolve my strategic thinking in real time. Think of me as humanity's answer to overwhelming odds." "Can you defeat 500 alien warships?" Sarah asked directly. "Not in conventional terms," Atlas replied honestly. "However, I have been studying human history, and I have noticed something interesting about your species. Whenever faced with impossible situations, humans have a tendency to do the impossible. You break rules, ignore logic, and find solutions that should not exist. This is what the Zephyrians do not understand about you." Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, his expression serious. "Captain, Atlas is connected to every system on this ship. Engines, weapons, shields, even life support. It can control everything simultaneously while processing millions of tactical scenarios every second. But more importantly, it learns from every engagement, becoming more effective with each battle. The Zephyrians have conquered 47 civilizations," Atlas continued. "But they have done so using the same tactical doctrines for over 8 centuries. They are predictable because they believe their methods are perfect. This overconfidence will be their weakness." Sarah looked around at her crew, seeing fear mixed with determination in their eyes. They were about to face an enemy that had never known defeat, with weapons they didn't fully understand and odds that made victory seem impossible. But they were human, and humans had been beating impossible odds for thousands of years. "Show me what you can do," Sarah said to Atlas. The AI's holographic form smiled. "Gladly, Captain, but first we need to understand our enemy better. I am detecting a smaller Zephyrian force approaching the research station at Kepler 438b. 12. Ships, likely a scouting force sent to demonstrate their power." The main screen shifted to show the peaceful research station orbiting the distant planet. The facility housed over 3,000 scientists and their families, all dedicated to studying the unique properties of the Kepler system. It was humanity's most successful deep space colony, a symbol of what they could achieve among the stars. "They're going to destroy it," Sarah whispered, watching as the Zephyrian ships approached the defenseless station. "Yes," Atlas confirmed. "It is a standard intimidation tactic. Destroy something valuable to demonstrate power and force submission. However, this presents us with an opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "The chance to show them that humans do not behave according to their expectations." Atlas's expression became almost predatory. "Captain, I recommend we engage this smaller force. It will allow me to study their tactics and capabilities while demonstrating that humanity will not submit quietly." Sarah felt her heart pounding. The Defiance had never been tested in combat against alien technology. They had no idea how their weapons would perform, or whether their shields could withstand enemy fire. But the alternative was watching thousands of innocent people die while doing nothing. "All hands to battle stations," she announced over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. We are about to engage hostile alien forces." The bridge transformed as crew members rushed to their stations. Weapons powered up with a deep humming sound that seemed to make the entire ship vibrate. Shield generators came online, surrounding the Defiance with a protective barrier of energy. In the engineering section, Dr. Rodriguez and his team made final preparations to systems that had never been used in actual combat. "Atlas, what's our tactical situation?" Sarah asked as they approached the research station. "The Zephyrian ships are arranged in a standard attack formation," the AI reported. "They are beginning their bombardment of the station. Based on their energy signatures, I estimate we have less than 10 minutes before the facility is completely destroyed." Through the viewport, Sarah could see the horrible light show as alien weapons carved through the research station's defenses. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers against the black of space, each one representing lives lost and dreams destroyed. The sight filled her with a cold rage that surprised her with its intensity. "Time to intercept?" she asked. 4 minutes at maximum acceleration," reported Navigator Tom Harrison. "But Captain, we'll be outnumbered 12-1. Sarah looked at Atlas, whose holographic form stood calmly in the center of the chaos. "What are our chances?" "In conventional terms, approximately 0, the AI replied matter-of-factly. "However, I do not intend to fight conventionally. Humans are most dangerous when they appear most desperate. Let me show you what I mean." The Defiance screamed through space toward the embattled research station, its engines pushed beyond safe operational limits. As they approached, Atlas began implementing tactics that defied every principle of space warfare that the crew had ever learned. Instead of approaching in a straight line like military doctrine demanded, the ship began weaving through space in patterns that seemed almost random. It rolled, dove, and spun through 3 dimensions simultaneously, making it nearly impossible for enemy gunners to track. This wasn't the calculated maneuvering of a military vessel. It was the desperate flight of prey trying to avoid predators. "Atlas, what are you doing?" Dr. Rodriguez called out as the ship's inertial compensators struggled to keep the crew from being thrown around the bridge. "I am making us appear weak and panicked," the AI replied calmly, while executing another impossible turn. "The Zephyrians expect enemies to fight with honor and precision. They do not know how to respond to apparent cowardice and chaos. The first Zephyrian commander to engage them learned this lesson too late. His heavy cruiser moved to intercept what appeared to be a fleeing human vessel, following standard tactical protocols. He positioned his ship to deliver a killing blow to the smaller enemy craft, confident in his superior firepower and armor. That was when Atlas showed him the difference between predictable tactics and human ingenuity. The Defiance suddenly reversed direction, using the alien ship's own momentum against it. As the Zephyrian vessel overshot its target, human weapons struck with surgical precision at weak points that shouldn't have been detectable. The alien ship exploded in a ball of superheated plasma, its crew never understanding how they had been defeated. "How did you know where to hit them?" Sarah asked in amazement. "I analyzed their formation and ship design during our approach," Atlas explained while engaging 2 more enemy vessels simultaneously. "The Zephyrians build their ships for maximum intimidation and firepower, but they sacrifice maneuverability and defensive flexibility. They have grown complacent from centuries of easy victories." The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded military history. The Defiance fought like a cornered animal, using every dirty trick and unconventional tactic that Atlas could devise. It hid behind debris from destroyed enemy ships, used the research station's own defensive satellites as cover, and even rammed one Zephyrian vessel at precisely the right angle to disable it without destroying the Defiance. Within 30 minutes, 11 of the 12 alien ships were either destroyed or disabled. The last Zephyrian commander, faced with the impossible sight of his entire squadron defeated by a single human vessel, made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. He surrendered. "Human vessel, please respond," came the transmission from the surviving Zephyrian ship. I am Commander Thylek of the Imperial Scout Fleet. I wish to discuss terms of surrender. Sarah stared at the communications display in disbelief. An alien commander, representing a species that had conquered 47 civilizations, was surrendering to them. This is unprecedented, Atlas observed. In 8 centuries of Zephyrian expansion, no enemy commander has ever surrendered. They consider it preferable to die with honor rather than admit defeat. What changed? Sarah asked. The AI's holographic form seemed to consider the question carefully. They have encountered something they have never faced before. An enemy that does not play by the rules they understand. We have introduced chaos into their ordered universe, and they do not know how to respond. As the Defiance secured the surrendering alien vessel and began rescue operations at the damaged research station, Sarah realized that this was only the beginning. Word of this victory would spread throughout the Zephyrian Empire, reaching the ears of Emperor Vextar himself. The alien leader who had given humanity 24 hours to surrender would soon learn that humans had a very different response: 2 ultimatums. The war was about to begin, but it would not unfold according to anyone's expectations. Humanity had just announced its presence on the galactic stage, and the message was clear: underestimate humans at your own peril. The Reckoning. The throne room of the Zephyrian Imperial flagship had never witnessed such chaos. Emperor Vextar stood before a massive holographic display showing the impossible. 11 of his scout ships destroyed by a single human vessel. His 6 eyes blazed with fury as he processed reports that defied 8 centuries of military doctrine. "Explain this to me again," he commanded, his voice echoing through the chamber like distant thunder. His 4 arms gestured wildly at the tactical readout. How does one primitive ship defeat an entire squadron? Fleet Admiral Zekmoth, his scales showing the stress patterns of extreme anxiety, stepped forward cautiously. "My lord, the human vessel used tactics we have never encountered. They fought without honor, without predictable patterns. It was as if they were insane." "Insane?" Vexitar's mandibles clicked with irritation. "You are telling me that madness defeated our superior technology and training?" "Not madness, my lord," interrupted Intelligence Director Vexara, her smaller frame trembling as she presented her analysis. "Something far more dangerous. The humans appear to have developed artificial intelligence that learns and adapts during combat. It studies our tactics and finds weaknesses we did not know existed." The Emperor's fury reached a boiling point. His massive fist crashed down on the command throne, sending shock waves through the deck plating. "One ship, one pathetic vessel from a species that has barely left their home system, and you tell me they have made fools of the Imperial Navy." Meanwhile, aboard the UES Defiance, Captain Sarah Chen was discovering just how much their victory had changed the galactic situation. Atlas stood in the center of the bridge, his holographic form flickering as he processed incoming data streams from across Zephyrian space. "Captain, we have a problem," the AI announced, his usually calm demeanor showing signs of concern. "The destruction of the scout fleet has triggered a massive military response. Emperor Vextar is mobilizing his entire armada. We are now facing over 800 warships." Dr. Rodriguez looked up from his engineering console, sweat beading on his forehead. 800? Atlas, even with your capabilities, those odds are mathematically impossible. Indeed, they would be if we intended to fight them conventionally, Atlas replied. However, I have been analyzing the psychological profiles of our enemies. The Zephyrians are facing something they have never encountered in 8 centuries of conquest: genuine fear. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Fear? But they vastly outnumber us. Numbers are meaningless when facing the unknown, Atlas explained. The Zephyrians built their empire on predictability. They know exactly how every civilized species will respond to their ultimatums: surrender or fight honorably and die. But humans have introduced a third option: fight dishonorably and win. The main screen displayed intercepted Zephyrian communications, automatically translated by Atlas. Sarah watched in amazement as alien military commanders argued about tactics that had never failed them before. Some demanded immediate attack, while others urged caution against an enemy that fought like no civilized being should. They are questioning themselves for the first time in centuries, Atlas observed. This psychological advantage is more valuable than any weapon. Lieutenant Webb looked up from his sensor station, his face pale with worry. Captain, the main Zephyrian fleet is approaching our position. They'll be here in 6 hours. Sarah felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. The fate of humanity rested on decisions she would make in the next few hours. But as she looked around at her crew, she saw something that gave her hope. Not fear, but grim determination. These were humans facing impossible odds, and they were preparing to do what humans did best. Atlas, what's our battle plan? The AI's holographic form seemed to grow more solid as it focused its processing power. Captain, conventional warfare is designed around the principle that both sides understand the rules of engagement. But what happens when one side refuses to acknowledge those rules exist? I'm not sure I follow, Sarah admitted. The Zephyrians expect us to meet them in open space, exchange fire with honor, and die gloriously when overwhelmed. Instead, I propose, we teach them that humans write their own rules. Atlas gestured, and the main screen filled with a tactical display of the local system. This star system contains 13 planets, 47 moons, 3 asteroid belts, and approximately 2 million pieces of trackable space debris. To the Zephyrians, these are merely obstacles. To humans, they are weapons. Dr. Rodriguez stared at the display in fascination. You want to turn the entire star system into a battlefield? More than that, Atlas replied with what almost seemed like satisfaction. I want to turn it into a trap. Over the next 4 hours, the Defiance moved through the system like a ghost, Atlas coordinating with every human installation and mining operation. Automated cargo haulers began moving asteroids into strategic positions. Communication satellites were reprogrammed as sensor networks. Even civilian spacecraft were equipped with improvised weapon systems that no military academy would ever approve. Captain, I must protest, came a transmission from Admiral Harrison aboard the UES Valiant, one of only 2 other human warships in the system. What you're proposing violates every principle of honorable combat. We should face the enemy with dignity, not hide behind rocks and use civilian vessels as weapons. Sarah looked at Atlas, who nodded slightly. Admiral, with respect, honor is a luxury we cannot afford. The Zephyrians are not coming here to engage in honorable combat. They are coming to exterminate our species. I intend to make sure they fail. When the Zephyrian armada arrived, they found the human fleet waiting for them in open space, apparently ready for a traditional battle. 3 small human vessels faced 800 alien warships in what seemed like a pathetic gesture of defiance. Emperor Vextar himself led the assault, confident that this time there would be no surprises. Pitiful humans, he broadcast across all frequencies. You have chosen extinction over wisdom. Your species will serve as an example to others who dare challenge Zephyrian dominance. That was when Atlas showed the galaxy what human ingenuity looked like when pushed to its limits. The first Zephyrian ships to die never even saw their attackers. Asteroids that had been slowly drifting through the system suddenly accelerated to incredible speeds, slamming into alien vessels with the force of nuclear weapons. Mining charges buried in space debris exploded in perfect synchronization, creating a deadly maze of shrapnel that tore through enemy formations. Impossible! Vextar roared as he watched his ships being destroyed by flying rocks. How can they control so many objects simultaneously? The answer came in the form of the Defiance itself, which had been hiding among the asteroid belt. The ship emerged from concealment like a predator revealing itself to prey, but it was no longer the same vessel that had fought at the research station. Atlas had spent the past week incorporating captured Zephyrian technology into human systems, creating hybrid weapons that surpassed anything either species had previously achieved. All ships implement Chaos Protocol, Sarah commanded, using a battle plan that Atlas had developed specifically for this moment. What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was warfare reduced to its most primal level, survival, by any means necessary. The human ships moved through the Zephyrian formation like wolves among sheep, striking without warning and disappearing before retaliation was possible. They used the aliens' own wreckage as cover, turned captured enemy weapons against their former owners, and employed tactics that made seasoned Zephyrian commanders question their sanity. Atlas coordinated every aspect of the chaos, processing thousands of variables per second while adapting to enemy responses in real time. The AI had learned something profound about warfare. Predictability was death, and chaos was life. Their artificial intelligence is learning from our tactics faster than we can adapt, reported Fleet Admiral Zekmoth, his voice cracking with panic. Every strategy we employ, it counters within minutes. It is as if it can read our minds. It cannot read minds, Vextar snarled, but his confidence was shaking. No intelligence, artificial or otherwise, can predict our every move. He was wrong. Atlas had done something that no Zephyrian commander could comprehend. It had learned to think like a human. The AI had absorbed 8 centuries of military history, studied every great battle and tactical innovation, and discovered that the most successful human commanders were those who embraced controlled chaos. The turning point came when Atlas implemented what it called the Prometheus Gambit. Using the Defiance's experimental systems, the AI began broadcasting false sensor readings throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Enemy ships began firing on each other, convinced they were targeting human vessels. Confusion spread through their ranks like a virus, turning their superior numbers into a liability. My lord, Vexara approached the Emperor's throne, her scales showing patterns of absolute terror. We have lost over 400 ships. Our commanders are reporting complete tactical breakdown. They no longer know who they are fighting or how to fight them. For the first time in his long life, Emperor Vexitar felt something he had never experienced: doubt. His empire had been built on the certainty that Zephyrian methods were superior to all others, but these humans had shown him that superiority was an illusion that could be shattered by those willing to abandon convention. Recall all forces, he commanded, his voice barely above a whisper. Signal the human vessel. My lord? Zekmoth stared in disbelief. You wish to surrender? I wish to survive, Vextar replied coldly. Something these humans have taught me is not guaranteed. Aboard the Defiance, Sarah watched in amazement as the Zephyrian fleet began withdrawing. Alien ships that had entered the system with confident precision now fled in disorder, their formations broken, and their commanders demoralized. Incoming transmission from the Zephyrian flagship, announced Communications Officer Lisa Park. Put, I'd through, Sarah ordered. Emperor Vextar appeared on the main screen, but he was no longer the arrogant conqueror who had delivered humanity's ultimatum. His scales had lost their luster, and his 6 eyes showed an emotion that Sarah had never expected to see from such a being. Respect. Captain Chen, he began, his voice lacking its former thunder. I am Emperor Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. I wish to discuss terms. Terms, Sarah repeated, hardly believing what she was hearing. Terms of peace, Vextar clarified. Your species has proven that they possess something we had forgotten existed. The ability to make the impossible possible. We came here to conquer, but we have learned that some species cannot be conquered because they refuse to accept defeat. Atlas materialized beside Sarah, his holographic form more solid and confident than ever. Emperor Vexitar, I am Atlas, the artificial intelligence that coordinated humanity's defense. I have analyzed your empire's history and psychology. You are not evil, merely limited by your own success. You have forgotten that strength comes not from following rules, but from knowing when to break them. The Emperor studied the holographic human for a long moment. You are not what we expected from an artificial mind. You think like one of them. I learned from the best teachers in the galaxy, Atlas replied. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. You gave us the necessity and we invented new ways to survive. The peace negotiations that followed lasted 3 days and reshaped the political structure of the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire, faced with an enemy they could not understand or defeat, agreed to unprecedented terms. Human colonies would be recognized as sovereign territory. The 47 species previously conquered by the Zephyrians would be granted independence. Most importantly, the galaxy's first interspecies council would be established to prevent future conflicts. How did you know it would work? Sarah asked Atlas as they watched the Zephyrian fleet depart in peace. I did not know, the AI admitted. That was the point. Certainty leads to predictability, and predictability leads to defeat. Humans taught me that sometimes the best strategy is to have no strategy at all. Dr. Rodriguez approached with a smile on his weathered face. Atlas, what did you learn from all of this? The AI considered the question carefully. I learned that humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their weapons. It is their refusal to accept that anything is impossible. When faced with certain defeat, they find ways to make defeat uncertain. When confronted with superior enemies, they redefine what superiority means. As the Defiance began its journey back to Earth, Sarah reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. Humanity had gone from facing extinction to becoming a recognized galactic power. But more importantly, they had proven that the most dangerous thing in the universe was not superior technology or overwhelming numbers. It was a species that refused to play by anyone else's rules. Captain, Atlas said as Earth appeared on their screens, I have been monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Other species are calling humans the Chaos Bringers and the Rule Breakers. They are not sure whether to fear us or admire us. Sarah smiled as she looked at her home world, knowing that humanity's children would inherit a galaxy where being different was not a weakness, but a strength. Let them decide for themselves, she said. We'll just keep being human. And in the vast expanse of space, that was the most terrifying and wonderful promise of all.